Okay. Hello everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming to the education event. I hope you managed to find a chair. As you can see, there's lots of chairs available. So, my name's Martin Price, I work for Absen. Welcome to Absen. This is the 2025 Spring Panel event. And what we're trying to do is explore how Pro AV technology and innovation is used within the education industry. Waiting for some more people to come in. We've been at the forefront at Absen of LED technology, providing innovative solutions that enhance learning environments. Our products are designed to meet the diverse needs of educational institutions, from classrooms to large auditoriums, and we're going to go into that a little bit later as we go on. The core theme of today is Pro AV technology innovation in the education industry. We'll discuss how advanced AV technologies are transforming educational spaces and improving the experience within them. So, without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce our panel of guests, if I may, that we have. So to start off, we've got Bart from Kinley. Do you want to perhaps just give us a bit of an introduction about yourself, and I'll breathe in so they can see you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you here for the audience, but my name is Bart Donkersloot. I'm the Managing Director of Kinley Global and responsible for the Benelux area.
Thank you very much. Aaron is from Loughborough University in the UK, but also represents an organisation called LTSMG. Aaron, do you want to just let us know a little bit about yourself?
Yep, so I'm Turlington Smith, so I am co-chair of an end-user professional community called LTSMG, so it's around 500 people across the UK who do similar roles to what I do at a university, which is an AV manager role. So I'm co-chair of that group, and I also work for Loughborough University, which is a top 10 university in the UK.
Thank you very much, Aaron. We've got Finson from BAP Technology. Do you want to just give us a bit of an introduction?
Thanks, Martin. Thanks for the invitation by Absen. I'm honored being here to share my sharing to all of you. Okay, BAP is an AV integrator and consultants in Hong Kong. Okay, we have business over 21 years. Okay, we have two business units. One is AV, Pro AV. Another one is a lighting control system. Okay, in the AV business unit, okay, one of the major customer and the major market sector is education. We also focus to the universities, and my role in the company is the managing director, but also I take the role as the sales and project director specifically for universities. So I have been working for universities for over 30 years. I hope to share more to you today.
Thank you, Finson. And then we have Martin Clay, who works for Pure Audio Visual in the UK, which is a Ricoh company. Martin, do you want to give us a brief introduction?
Yes, so my name is Martin Clay, Head of Technical Sales at Pure AV, and I have to say it's great to be here. I really appreciate being here in China, and I have to say what a wonderful facility Absen have here. It's been really good. So yeah, I look after technical sales design for primarily higher education, so I have a lot of experience working in universities over the years. I've been in the industry for over 30 years, so I can remember as far back as the overhead projector, and here we are now with DV LED, and yeah, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to the questions.
Thank you, Martin. And what a great name you have. And finally, Kristian Cutting, who is Joint Managing Director from a company called GVAV. Kristian, do you want to give us a brief introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Yeah, my name's Kristian Cutting. I'm the Joint Managing Director of GVAV. We're an audiovisual integrator in the UK. We focus on education and predominantly higher education. And yeah, I mean, thank you for inviting us or me here. What a great facility, and brilliant to see, what even deeper what Absen are about as a company.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So before we go into the actual topics, I'm just going to watch a short video of just how Absen has been used in some educational examples across the world. So if we could just start the video, please. Okay, so hopefully that's sort of opened your minds as to the way that LED can be used in an educational establishment in various different manners. So we'll go into the first topic if we can. And Kristian, I'm perhaps going to put this to you first if that's okay. So we're trying to look at how education business in Pro AV, so how can we use Pro AV within an educational establishment? So what would you perhaps see as the role of LED screens within, let's say, higher education?
Well, I think, you know, there's definitely momentum, and we're starting to see more and more inquiries coming through for LED. And, you know, originally that was in the sort of, you know, lecture theatre space where it's fairly obvious. But I think, you know, more and more it's starting to become in different spaces, you know, mobile solutions, common areas, immersive spaces and studios. So, you know, I think, you know, LED supports teaching and learning perfectly, and I think as there's going to be more use cases arise as we go forward.
I think for us, corporate, you know, hospitality, museums and so on has always been a strong market for LED, but education, I think primarily the concern was the durability of the product, and that's now got to a point where it's acceptable. So I think we're going to see a sudden growth in education.
Yeah, and Martin, I had some wonderful examples in the Netherlands, for example, where we use LEDs in learning labs. So wonderful experience as well. Yeah.
I think in universities there are many different kinds of teaching venues. For example, from a very small classroom, or sometimes we call GT, general teaching area, to lecture theatre, to auditorium, and even to some multi-purpose room. Okay, very different type. Okay, I think that the application will depend on the budget, and also depends on the requirement of the venues. For example, if there is a classroom, it's not a good time, not a right time. Okay, we can put the LED in the classroom, but there are some very important venues. For example, council chamber or Senate room. Okay, this kind of big conference room represent the status of universities. Okay, that is a very good place. We can introduce LED to there. Yeah, that's my experience.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think we need to remember that these applications go far beyond sort of traditional teaching and traditional lecture theatres nowadays. It's not just about an academic standing in front of a room delivering a PowerPoint. So most universities are now investing in immersive spaces, AR, VR spaces, and I think it does depend on the application on what the space is being used for.
Okay, thank you. I mean, as Aaron mentioned there, Kristian, about how perhaps it can change the way universities use their teaching spaces. But what would you see, how would you see LED technology perhaps transforming teaching spaces within the universities?
Well, I mean, it's going to be transforming it. Is I can see, you know, it fitting where larger images are needed in the short term. I think, you know, if we're going to talk about transforming an institution, I think, you know, we need to really look at, you know, what could happen in some of the smaller spaces. And at the moment, I think, you know, that's a question whether or not it could sort of take on, you know, projection perhaps. But you know, I can't quite see that computing at the moment, but who knows what happens.
If talking about transforming, I think maybe sometimes we start from the terms pedagogy. Okay, because the learning and teaching method is changing. Okay, some people say general teaching, traditional teaching, or some people always talking about flipped classroom, tomorrow classroom, interactive classroom, many different topics. Okay, if technology, I think it's easy for the technology to apply not in the general teaching, but in these special teaching venues.
Yeah, I think lecture theatre spaces is obviously where the sort of prime target is, but I think Pure AV, we're seeing you know, simulation suites and the like. There's opportunities for that kind of application where we can have immersive spaces. I think, you know, traditionally it was always dealt with by projection, but I think DV-LED is going to have the capability to sort of morph itself around various spaces, you know, for that application.
And I think in addition that LED can help by creating a really attractive learning experience. because the students are really the ones we have to focus on. And it's about teaching and inspiring, in my opinion. So I think that will be great.
Aaron, if I can put to you, so with all of those opinions there in mind, what would be the key factors that, as a university, that you would consider when purchasing LED?
I think some of it goes back to what I just said. I think it depends on the space, what the space is being used for. I think we have to think about flexibility of the space. I think sustainability is also going to have an impact on that now going forward. And I think one other thing is the wow factor of it. You know, in the UK, it's a very competitive market at the moment for students. There's a lot of universities struggling. We rely on things like open days and bringing prospective students along and trying to tell them why this university is the place there for them to come. And I think LED still has that wow factor, and I think that plays a big part, especially in them flagship lecture theatres where you bring them prospective students in.
I think extra value is important. How you explain the extra value, you can get it after you adapt the LED. For example, in some special room, nowadays I can see the universities in the world, they like to have many exchange program or exchange inter-visit. Okay, you come to our universities and also we go to your universities. All their top management people or research people, okay, they need to have a lot of general conference room. They need to have a high level conference room to discuss, to demonstrate their ideas. Because most of the universities, they want to spend money is in the research. Something, if the topic they are talking about is research, they are willing to spend more. And I have experience. I can share with you how to get more business in convince the client to adapt LED. For example, in a very special conference room, okay, generally they may purchase a projector. Okay, but if some high-level guests come to your universities after 2 days seminar, what they have to do is to take group photos, right? Taking a group photos, that means you need to have a backdrop, very nice backdrop, very rich backdrop. But once you replace the projection screen with a LED, that is a dynamic backdrop. Well, just the backdrop, it can help you to confirm the order. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Kristian?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, talking about key factors. I mean, obviously the flexibility that Aaron mentioned. I mean, now as a product, it can do things that, you know, projection and some of the other stuff, you know, just can't do. And you know, you can create all different shapes and sizes with it, and you know, squares and abstract designs with it, and that's quite exciting from a project delivery perspective. You can do things slightly different. Another, you know, key benefit of LED is it's modular. You know, you can support it so much easier. You don't have to take down the whole wall to, if there's an issue, you can fix it quite quickly with less resource. And I think that's an important thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the developments that I think we'd love to see is obviously everything is rectangular, squares, 90 degrees. It'd be great to see curves. Yeah. You know, the ability to sort of have rounded shapes and so on. And you know, we've got projects where we're replicating a dish in space, and obviously it looks like a Lego brick if you use lots of squares. So having curves on these panels as an option at some point would be great.
Yeah, I'd like to second that actually, because we too are picking up projects which, you know, they want full 360 Agora type, and it supports different teaching methods, and that's quite you know, quite a new thing. And I think that, you know, if we can get to a 360, you know, image, that'd be fantastic.
I think that's a really good point, because what I see in practice, that there is a sort of urge for simulation programs and modules among the students, and LED is really helpful with it. So I think a big benefit. And I think when you compare LED with projectors, I think when you invest in an LED, you have less renewal compared to projectors. So I think that's a really big advantage as well. So in the long term.
Yes, Aaron.
I think as well we do need to remember the environment. There's times, we've put LED in teaching spaces just because the direct light that's coming into the room, for instance, where we physically couldn't do it with projection, or we could, but then the projection versus LED didn't become an issue.
If we go on to part 2 now, if that's okay. So, and there's some connections with this now from the last one. So, AV technology coverage within education, but and I'll put this to you, Aaron, first, if I may. So, as we all know, I think across the world, universities regularly have quite tight budgets, not only for audiovisual, but for many things. But how would you then justify the investment of LED technology over other display solutions?
Yeah, I guess we've just covered a bit of that. But one thing, certainly in the UK with universities, is most budgets are pre-planned. So we kind of know what we're doing sort of 4, 5, sometimes 6 years in advance. And that's where these guys become really key for us, because, we need to work closely with them and talk to them about the new technologies and what's coming in. But yeah, I guess it's similar to what I've just said. I think it depends on the technology and the pedagogy and what people are doing. We've invested recently in some stereo, 3D video immersive technology. It's been used within sort of manufacturing, doing simulations and materials, and seeing the build-up and make-up of materials as well. But then again, the flexibility, the flagship element, making sure that your flagship lecture theatres, and again, same cancel chambers for us, is making sure that them key spaces, have the right technology that is flexible and does everything we need it to do.
If I perhaps put it in a different way, which is the same, but I think which perhaps helps everyone come into it a bit more. Obviously, compared to what does the environment suit, but I suppose if I put the question a different way, we all perhaps know that LED, from an initial cost purchase perspective, can be more expensive than a lot of the other solutions that are out there. But absolutely, and what we pride ourselves here at Absen on is the whole green factor, so that total cost of ownership, the running hours, the heat aspect. How much, as an organisation, would you take that into consideration? How much would you be willing to use that as a reason as to why you would choose LED as a more expensive solution over something that was not?
So for Loughborough University, absolutely. So as most institutions in the UK, we have sustainability goals. We have our 2030 sustainability goals at Loughborough, and we're looking to reduce our carbon emissions as close to zero as we possibly can. So it absolutely does play a factor in it.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, we're certainly seeing tender opportunities come through from the higher education sector that request that data from us. They want to know what the power consumption is. They want to know what the life cycle is and how much it's going to cost to support it and other key elements. And so they can make an informed decision as to whether or not they do want to include LED or other technology within the basket of goods.
Martin?
Yeah, it's a good point, is this. Where LED is concerned, we actually have two customers at a university. We've got the AV department who buy the initial purchase, if you like, from their budgets, and then we've got the people that pay the electricity bill. And what we're finding at Pure AV is that we're not only having to propose the equipment and the technology and so on, but we're also having to justify or provide information, the total running cost for over a 5-year period, say. And we have to take those power consumption figures, convert them into kilowatt hours, and then provide a pounds price against that, because both sides of the budget needs to be considered, and that's becoming more and more evident. It's something that we provide.
And I think that was evident from the presentation this morning, where it was actually in a corporate environment, but where over a 5-year period, the total cost of ownership equated to a difference of about £740,000 over 5 years. So the product actually pays for itself. Finson, if I could just direct a question to yourself. As an integrator, you deal with both corporate, retail and education. Can I ask, where does education or Pro AV within education sit within your organisation compared to other areas?
50%, and that is our focus. Okay. In this morning, the morning session, Absen talked many times about focus. Okay, I agree, totally agree. Focus. or we focus to the education and higher education. Regarding to the budget, okay, I have some sharing. I always think when the project start the project, whether they have budget depends on the time when you can cut in the project. Okay, if you can cut in earlier, okay, and you can present the benefit, okay, of course LED must have benefit, okay, over the traditional projection system or LP professional panel, okay. So if you can cut in earlier, you have time, you have opportunity to get more budget. But if your time is not early, as early, it's not too early, okay. But when they have a budget for the total project, the whole renovations, but if you can jump in and explain to them why you need to go this direction, okay, actually every project have different budget allocations. Architect, fitting out, electrical, acoustic, furniture, okay, a lot. Sometimes I always say that the architect, they may not appropriately allocate the budget. Okay, I have experience when I jump in, I tell them, finally, usually in a building or in a big renovation project, AV budget usually share about 10%. Okay, 10%. But 10% is not enough to do a good project in that project. So finally, I can get double, 20%. But where the extra 10% comes from, of course, we have to justify it. And the project manager get the budget from some other area. Yeah, I think so. Doing a good project for LED, budget is a must. Okay, at this time today, it's a must. Okay, because LED is still several times higher than the traditional projection system. But this is the direction we must go. Okay, we must explain clearly to the project manager, to the users, and help them. We help them to make the change earlier. Because I always say that if today you don't change, tomorrow you will change. Why not you change earlier than the others? Because you have the total budget. The total budget is okay already, but the allocation is not appropriate. Let us do it for you. Yeah, I think this is a way to push the LED into the universities. Yeah. And also sometimes you said UK, I can share some in Hong Kong. Very strange. Universities in Hong Kong, budget is always not an issue because a lot of donations. Okay, if they only depends on the government fund every year, a lot of things cannot do it. But when they have a big project, they can get the donations. A lot of people in queue to donate the money. But how to justify it? Yeah, budget we need to handle. Yeah.
Kristian.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think, with the inclusion of any product, if there's a will, there's always a way to get it into. But looking specifically at the UK education, where they are under pressure at the moment, it's well documented. I think they have to be careful. They need to, talk about justifying, LED. I think, they have to run the numbers, and they have to look at it, and they will have to look at each space, see whether or not it fits, see if they can afford it, see if it meets the end user requirements, and only then it's a goer.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think, and this is the thing, when you're developing a specialist space, whether it be immersive or VR, I think you can sort of demand that. You can demand that extra money to say is required. I think where the problem comes is to try and do that over a whole estate within an institution does become difficult to justify, certainly in smaller spaces. So if you think about smaller classrooms, smaller seminar type space, it's still very difficult. There's still such a huge price gap between projection and LED.
And that's where the real numbers are, right? If you look at the seminar rooms, Aaron will tell you that his seminar room count is far higher, and the use of projection is far higher than probably any other technology. That yes, he uses LCD screens and he use LED, but that's really where the big numbers are, and it'd be really interesting to see what LED does to sort of combat that if they want to transform institutions.
Yeah, and talking about the decision process, whether you want to decide if you want to invest in, let's say, LED. I always see that it is always a make or buy decision. Sometimes it started with a business case and it ends with a business case. But I think the main point is the utilization of the rooms. That's also very depending on whether you would decide to invest in LED. Yeah.
I think from my experience as well, within the UK, students will pay £7,000 per year, so that's £21,000 to be at the university. So it becomes a... Is it more now? So
That was in the 80s.
well, that's when I got my master's, Kristian. So I think what you'll find is it becomes a competition as to having the best technology to attract your customer. And I think that also goes along within corporate as well. So with that in mind, Bart, what would you say are the key issues or complications when supplying education over corporate?
Well, you mean in the characteristics?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Main challenges.
The main challenges. Well, I think it all has to do with the budget you have. I think that's the most central point. And I think there are some similarities because I think both in the education sector and in the corporate sector, you want to be very attractive. And I think the attractive part, attracting students, I think that's the main issue or the main decision you have to make.
Okay, so moving on to part 3. As you can see there, comparing LED, LFD and projection technologies. Aaron, if I can put this question to you. As LED technology continues to expand within education, how does it compare to things like LFD and projection, but also things like 3D technology and AI within universities?
Yeah, so again, we just touched on that, but so I still think there's quite a wide margin when we compare it to projection in certain spaces. I think most universities now have adopted LED when it comes to kind of larger spaces in terms of exhibition space and, you know, entrances to buildings. I think it's generally accepted now. You know, we're putting it into main sort of key spaces, but I think there is still that sort of question mark over that. But certainly specialist spaces, so as I mentioned earlier, we're using sort of stereo 3D LED quite a lot, so we're doing a lot of stuff around engineering with that. I think it is becoming more embedded in standard teaching, but yeah, I think there's still a bit of a gulf there.
I think,
Martin.
Yeah, when you're looking at the comparison between the technologies, I mean, projection essentially is a white screen. So the deepest black you're going to get essentially is the white screen, really. And you know, the audience to some extent has to sit in a lower ambient lit environment. And of course, the benefit with DV-LED is, you know, black is going to be black, and you get much better color representation, much better brightness, contrast ratio. So there's a number of reasons where it just simply outperforms projection, and I think universities will see the benefit of investment. I think that gap is narrowing very, very quickly.
With regards to LFD and projection, where do you see the coverage of LED compared to those technologies? Perhaps at the moment, and we have already sort of touched on this, but with regards to percentages, Aaron, across your teaching spaces?
So we've started to roll out LED, like I say, large spaces. We currently only have, at the university, we probably only have around 10% coverage across the whole campus at the moment.
That's teaching spaces?
That's in teaching spaces. Like I say, we've pretty much adopted it across exhibition areas. We are also using it a lot because we run a event service as well at the university, so we are using a lot of LED for that, mainly portable or maybe stuff that we build as part of a set for the clients. But it is growing, and like I said earlier, most universities, we plan our spend years in advance. So if I looked at our spend for the next 5 years, I think that would probably grow closer to 20% across the estate.
Kristian?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Aaron, you know, is one of those universities that are quite progressive with technology, and others aren't. And I think 10% is probably quite high when you look across the spectrum of adoption of LED within the university sector. So I do think it's early days, and I think there's a big opportunity, to get LED into even their lecture theatres. I know many universities that are still using projection. So I think there's going to be an initial opportunities that arise, and and as more use cases come, I think it's just going to get bigger.
I think 10% is quite good. Okay, comparing to the university in Hong Kong, I think less than 5% in teaching venues. Of course, the LED application most likely in the main entrance or a special exhibition area or some special boardroom, conference room, something like that. For application to the teaching venue, the people has very big hesitations. Because, for example, I'm not talking about classroom, talking about the lecture theatre, okay? 200 students lecture theatre, they would worry about whether the student or the lecturer will complain, too shy, too bright, affect their learning mode, something like that. So the people very hesitate to apply, to adopt this, but at least. But anyway, no matter how they think about it, some people has a start. But so I think in Hong Kong, 2 or 3 universities, they have already started to install LED, big LED screen in the lecture theatres. But after running 1 year, the result is no complaint, perfect. The pitch is 1.5, very enough for lecture theatre, 200 students.
Bart?
Yeah, can I ask a question to Aaron?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering, do you make, let's say, combinations with investing in LED and content? So make a good combination? Because content is king, that's what we learned.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of the experience.
Yeah, absolutely, and that again comes back to specialist spaces and dependent. And some of the specialist spaces we have at Loughborough, we use LED because of the content and absolutely what they're using the screens for.
Great, thank you.
Just one more thing. I mean, I know we're talking about universities and LED adoption, but there's also FE, and I've seen, recently, some significant spends in FE with immersive spaces, and there's the opportunity in lower education in their school halls. I've seen that as well. So, there's a broader spectrum of that's available for LED.
I think we're seeing LED specified in projects. Previously it will have been a lecture theatres, a display, and it was left to the integrator, whoever was going to submit a proposal for that project, what technology would be used. And we're seeing LED now actually specified in these projects. And you mentioned the sort of universities and different budgets, and some have the money and some don't. Certainly the ones that have the money are now specifying it as part of their specification.
I think that's where, when you look at things, when you spoke about using the equipment within conference facilities within the university, that's where the all-in-one comes into play. Mm-hmm. Things like hall systems, where you can look at the all-in-one as a very cost-effective solution. And it's only the same as when we look now, years gone by, if we look at when everyone had an interactive whiteboard and a projector, and they said that large format interactive screens, they'll never be in. And as the price comes down and we invest more and more in research and development, then the price comes down and they become more affordable. So I think we'll see that as time goes on within those environments. If I go on to part 4 now, if we can, please. So the future of AV technology education, I think we've probably already touched on that quite a lot already, and I think it's really refreshing from everyone here to see that they're thinking about how we can be doing something different, not going with the norm and seeing how we can actually be different within our organisations and establishments. But if we, looking ahead, and Aaron, I'll put this to you as the end user again, if I may, how do you see LED technology and the broader AV ecosystem impacting the education sector? So will it lead to different kinds of scenarios within higher education and the university teaching spaces?
Yeah, I think so. And I think over time, I think what we're going to see, I mean, you mentioned 5 to 10 years, but I think we are going to see more of the traditional projection being replaced by LED. There's no doubt, for the reasons that we've all said, the quality, the contrast, the longevity of it, the sustainability element of it. I think new applications is going to be a big driver in it. Certainly has been for Loughborough over the last year. We've developed a new concept called DigiLabs. So we're using it, as I've said before, for engineering, for VR, for AR. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think another big thing in the UK that's just started to come out is esports as well. So
yeah, huge.
Many universities are now investing heavily in esports. And you know, when you think about, I'm not just talking about people sat at a computer, I'm thinking, you know, the competitions and, you know, traditionally the big LED screens at competitions that are used. So I think that will be something that will be driven within universities going forward. I think AI as well. I think the ability to make sure we have high quality, high resolution visuals to support AI going forward, I think that's going to be really important as well.
Martin?
Yeah, you mentioned esports. It's definitely something that crops up quite a lot. The cost refresh rate is very important in that aspect. You know, this fast-moving gaming imagery has got to have a display that can keep up with that. So you know, it's great to see Absen doing the 120 frames per second, you know, capabilities on their displays, and again the colour representation. But yeah, it's a good point about esports.
Esports is a great example to think about and how people are looking and where LED fits in quite nicely. So we spoke earlier on about, I've dealt with universities where they have esports suites, but they don't offer esports as a degree, but it's a way of actually getting their customers, i.e. the students, into their university. But what's great with esports, and we have a fantastic example downstairs in our showroom, which you'll all be able to see, is virtual production. So along with esports comes the esports course, games design, production, presentation, filming, and also the actual virtual production of that. And have you seen examples of that within your university, Aaron?
A little bit. So we're just about to invest into esports. There's a number of UK universities and a lot of further education institutions that are running esports as their curriculum now. So that it's not just a facility for students. This is you can go and get a degree in esports in the UK. I don't know if that is across Europe.
We all used to tell our children you can't get a job out of playing your games, but you can.
Well, interestingly, my son actually has just started a B Tech, so his A levels in esports. So
this sounds lovely.
So yeah, certainly start to see that, and you know that's even coming into UK universities are very competitive with sports as well. So actually, esports is becoming part of that as well. That competition that they do on Wednesday afternoons. So yeah, we're definitely seeing that come into the universities.
Just going back to yourself, Kristian, if I can, something you touched on briefly before, but again, future of AV technology. We've been very much sort of HE-centric, and by HE in the UK, we're higher education. And Kristian, you mentioned about further education, FE. So would I be right in thinking that where LED has a sort of an immediate future within FE is the replacement of things by 2x2 video walls with LED, offering better picture quality, easier maintenance? Is that something you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I probably haven't seen too much of it, other than we did recently do a project for a college, which did. But there's definitely an opportunity, without a doubt. I mean, look, we all know the image quality on LED is just far superior, I think there's definitely an opportunity within FE. I know something you touched on earlier about with the corporate and education. There's also an opportunity in like business schools, and stuff. We're seeing that some of the projects that we're doing now, that the kids want to experience, in business schools, what they're going to be doing outside when they're employed. So there's so much opportunity for LED, and I think it's just going to grow.
I think that's one of the great things about universities, as well as the teaching side of things. You've got all of the examples we speak about within business, within retail, are all teaching and learning opportunities within a university. So they'll have examples of LED to help teach that particular course. So I think the opportunities within universities specifically are endless when it comes to LED. Can we think of any examples or integrators, if you are sort of open to the floor, with regards to things like VR, AI, and different examples like that, and 3D, which always crops its head up within education? Do we see where LED perhaps might open up opportunities within those, or do you see how maybe they would work within LED within education?
Definitely, I think. Yeah, because I'm still talking about the research. Okay, when you research some topics, when you need to apply some VR or XR, something like that, you need to have a very good display. Okay, that is only LED can do it. Okay, you cannot use a screen to do it. Okay, you cannot use a panel to do it. Only LED can provide you a larger screen and also can provide you the immersive experience. So in research topic, LED application is very, very high, I think. Yeah.
Martin?
Yeah, I think studio environments, are appearing in education, and also if you look at sort of distance learning studios, recording studios, where the lecture is being given not to an audience in front of the lecturer, but a distance audience, and LED works really good from a presenter's perspective, being able to see the far end users. And it might not be behind them, it may actually be in front of them, and it's a great application for a team's distance learning environment.
Yeah, I'll just add on that as well from a team's perspective, and actually it's when it's a hybrid that is where it becomes more of a problem. I think is where you've got people in person and people joining remotely, because trying to get that audience remotely and in person to feel inclusive is very, very difficult, and you pretty much can't do it on a standard 16:9 screen, for instance. And I think that is where I think LED becomes really important there, is to allow you to kind of do the 21:9 and things like that.
I think it's quite important as well. Sorry, they're all paying the same money. These students, they've got to feel like they're getting the same experience, whether they're in the room or external. So investing in that type of technology is really, really important, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. I see a lot of students in the Netherlands using LED for simulation programs, and also for AI and augmented reality. So I think those elements are really key, considering investing in LED. Yeah.
I'll put to all of you really, Aaron and the integrators. So would you see then that the emergence of the all-in-one solution now, with it being more price competitive, do you see that as being the initial uptake of LED within education? Shall I start with yourself, Aaron?
100%. Yeah, I think that was kind of when we started at Loughborough adopting LED more, and I don't think it was necessarily just about cost. I think some of it is about the fact that you get this, it's an all-in-one. They come with everything: the bracketry, the processing, that kind of plug and play. I think it just took that kind of minefield away from LED, because we know it's not just about putting panels on a wall. So I think absolutely that is a game changer.
So initially then, would you have said that people's perception of LED would be perhaps that it might be a more complex solution, but actually what that's done by having all-in-one is taken away that fear of specifying it?
Definitely, and not just that. I think you know what you're paying for. You know that will work, so then it's not a case of the LEDs can cost this, and then you've got to invest in the processing, and then you've got to get bespoke bracketry made to put it on the wall, and then all of a sudden
the whole solution is one
all of a
warranty.
sudden it's double the cost. So I think it's a lot clearer, certainly for the end users.
Martin?
From an integrator's perspective, the all-in-one solution, the single SKU, makes a lot of sense. We obviously have, I've got design colleagues that can help put together complex solutions, but the sales account managers, the people on the sales floor, if you like, it's a difficult subject for them to deal with, the complexities of these custom solutions. So the all-in-one is a great tool for them and allows them to simply say, yeah, there's a product ready to go out of the box, and it's easy. I think you'll see a huge benefit an increase in sales simply from making these products an all-in-one and simple to sort of label and ship and so on.
So going back to the presentation this morning, when we've seen now how we've used our keyword focus, and now we just have the Icon X and we only have the 3 products, the 108, the 136 and the 167, makes it easier for you guys not only to specify from an end user, but also from a system integrator, is that right?
Yeah, really. And I think what really helps are, let's say, the amount of installation cost. And I really like the IKEA approach. I think that really helps. I don't know about
you, but when he mentioned IKEA, that meant it was going to be countless evenings for frustration not actually building it correctly.
That's the case.
That's what IKEA meant for me. Yeah. But I'm sure we can test all of you to see who can, out of the integrators, can install in 24 minutes or less, right?
I think it's hard to beat, but we can try as a group.
I do see 2 things here. I see Aaron saying to the system integrators, well, hold on a minute, it only takes 24 minutes to install one. And the integrator saying, yeah, but actually we're looking.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that was the first thing I've seen is like, how are you going to justify the cost of installing these going forward?
It takes 2 hours to find a parking spot at your place.
The 24 minutes doesn't include power up the panel. Yeah. I suggest the film should include the power up the panel.
It takes to power it up. Yeah. It's 24 minutes to install, but 2 hours to open the box.
And including the parking cost. Huh? Yeah. We have to remember.
Well, I think that's brought us a little bit early to the end, but what I'd like to do, if I can, is just say thank you very much to all the panelists. Have a round of applause for them, please. Kristian, Martin, Finson, Aaron, Bart, really, really appreciate your time. I think what we've demonstrated there, well, hopefully what we've demonstrated, for those of you that perhaps didn't think, is that there are countless opportunities and ways of using LED within education. Question from the floor.
Yeah, one may, Martin.
Yes, sir. For everyone, just for reference, Stuart works for Midwich, Piesco, which is our distributor in the UK. Microphone, Stuart.
Is that something that's taken into account when the decision making? Sorry.
Is that something that you take into account when you're thinking about which manufacturer to back and which manufacturer to support? Hanson, when he did his speech earlier, was talking about the investment that Absen have made on a global basis in their service centres. So I just wondered if that is something that is considered.
Certainly from an integrator perspective, before we sort of want to propose a brand to our customers, we want to make sure that we can support it with a partner properly because it's our neck on the block. So 100%, yeah.
And from an end user perspective, we are relying on these guys to give us that information. I think it's fair to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, on that note, any other questions from the floor at all? No? Okay, fantastic. So, look, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, audience, for taking the time out for coming. I think what we've demonstrated is how not only Absen, but LED in general has a massive future within education. We fully recognise it's a massive growth market for us and in general, but hopefully by sitting in on this today, you've been able to see and share some of those opinions with us. And so thank you very much for your time, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Yes.